Have you ever wondered why God sometimes places you in rooms that feel too big for you or too quiet to make sense? That's not confusion, that's our strategy. God is the master chess player, moving you into positions you didn't pray for, to open doors you couldn't unlock on your own. Just like Joseph in Pharaoh's palace, what looked like rejection was divine relocation. You may think you're stuck, but you're being set up. Every detour, every disappointment, every delay is part of God's design to position you for purpose. Because when He aligns your steps, no man can shut what He's about to open. And what I'm about to reveal to you about this could shift your perspective forever. But you must watch this video until the very end. Don't skip. Have you ever paused to notice how life seems to move you? Not always where you want to go, but where you need to be. It's as though something far wiser than your plans, far deeper than your desires, is arranging the board pieces of your existence. You think you're making choices, yet behind every decision, there's a subtle, divine choreography taking place. The moment you think you've lost control is often the moment you're exactly where you're meant to be. You see, divine positioning is never random. It's not chaos, it's composition. The universe, or what I'll call the hand of God, is not careless, it's deliberate. Every setback, every shift, every closed door is not an accident, but a part of a larger orchestration designed to place you where something new can unfold. It's easy to believe this when things go right, but the real test is believing it when everything falls apart, because that's when positioning feels like punishment. Think of Joseph, a dreamer who saw greatness in his sleep, but betrayal in his waking life. Sold by his brothers, enslaved in Egypt, and thrown into prison for a crime he didn't commit. To the untrained eye, that's tragedy, but to the divine eye, it's trajectory. Joseph wasn't buried, he was being planted. And when the right season came, the same system that imprisoned him elevated him. What looked like a fall was, in fact, a lift. That's the paradox of divine placement. The pit and the palace are on the same path. When you are in alignment with divine intention, even confusion becomes sacred. Life is not a series of random interruptions. It's a pattern too vast for your current perspective. You're standing inside the painting, unable to see the full picture. The brushstrokes that seem chaotic are part of a larger masterpiece being revealed one scene at a time. So when you find yourself in an unfamiliar place, don't be so quick to resist it. The discomfort you feel may be the soil of your transformation. Sometimes God will hide you in a season of obscurity to prepare you for visibility. Sometimes He'll take away what you've built so He can reveal what He's been building within you. Every redirection is a refinement. Every delay is divine design. You can't see it yet, but your position is pregnant with purpose. You might say, but I don't understand why I'm here. And that's the point. You're not supposed to understand it yet. You're supposed to trust it. Trust that the hand that led you here will not leave you here. Trust that every moment of confusion carries the seed of clarity. Trust that the same grace that positioned you in pain will position you in power. There's a rhythm to this life, an unseen intelligence guiding it all. When you fight against it, you suffer. When you flow with it, you see. The current of destiny moves differently from the current of desire. You may have wanted one path, but destiny often hides behind detours. The very thing you thought disqualified you may be the thing that qualifies you. So stop asking, why am I here? And start asking, what is this place trying to teach me? Because the lesson you resist is often the door you delay. Every moment is a messenger, and every hardship is a teacher. When you embrace that truth, You stop seeing life as a battle to win and start seeing it as a dance to join. Remember this, you are not misplaced, you are being moved. There's no such thing as off track in divine geometry. You are exactly where you need to be so that the next door, the right door, can open in its appointed time. The strategy of God is subtle but sure. The plan is hidden, but it's holy. The secret is not in knowing where you're going. It's in trusting who's guiding you there. And once you understand that, you stop chasing places and start becoming the place where blessings naturally dwell. You are not lost, you are being located. It's a curious thing, isn't it? How we all crave comfort, yet growth never happens there. We want the warmth of certainty, the softness of security, the assurance that tomorrow will look a lot like today. But comfort, though pleasant, is deceptive. It whispers safety while quietly suffocating transformation. Life in its divine intelligence knows this. And so, just when you've settled, it stirs the waters. The still pond begins to ripple, and you find yourself once again walking through uncertainty, wondering why the ground beneath you feels like shifting sand. But what if the discomfort isn't punishment? What if it's positioning? Think about it. Every significant transformation in your life began with some form of discomfort. The job that ended, the relationship that fractured, the plan that failed. Those moments weren't meant to destroy you. They were meant to stretch you. For only when the shell cracks can the seed become what it was destined to be. The pain of breaking is inseparable from the promise of becoming. Consider Moses. He spent 40 years in the luxury of Pharaoh's palace and another 40 in the obscurity of the desert. The first half gave him knowledge, the second gave him wisdom. The desert was his teacher. It stripped him of pride, position, and control until all that remained was purpose. And isn't that what happens to us? The desert moments, the seasons that feel barren and dry, are where our true selves emerge. God doesn't send us into the wilderness to punish us, but to prepare us for what comfort could never teach. We often say we want to be used by God, but we forget that divine use requires divine reshaping. You cannot carry new oil in old vessels. You cannot speak of faith you haven't had to practice. So life, ever the sculptor, applies pressure where resistance still hides. It chisels away the unnecessary. It exposes the unfinished edges. It sends winds to strip the branches so that new fruit can grow. You see, it's not the mountain that's hard. It's the climb that strengthens the legs. You were never meant to stay where it's easy. Ease breeds stagnation, but challenge breeds revelation. And every time you face something that feels too big for you, it's an invitation to discover that you are more than you believed yourself to be. That's the paradox of divine placement. The hardest places often hold the holiest lessons. We must learn to stop resenting the discomfort and begin listening to it. Pain is the language of transformation. It's how life says, you're not finished yet. The caterpillar might call the cocoon a prison, but the butterfly knows it as passage. Likewise, your current pressure is not proof that you've been forgotten. It's evidence that something extraordinary is being formed within you. And maybe, just maybe, what feels like delay is the mercy of timing. You're not waiting on life to open doors. Life is waiting for you to grow into the person who can walk through them without collapsing under the weight of blessing. Purpose requires endurance. Blessing requires structure. You cannot sustain what your character cannot hold. So God, in his mysterious wisdom, sometimes lets you sit in the tension, not because he's absent, but because he's architecting something solid, something eternal, something real. If you could see the end from the beginning, You would bless the very storms you're begging to escape. You'd thank the heartbreak that deepened your compassion. You'd honor the closed door that redirected your steps. Because in hindsight, discomfort reveals itself as a sacred gift, the force that pushed you from who you were to who you're meant to be. So when life feels tight, when your spirit feels stretched and your plans unravel, remember this: you're not being broken down, you're being expanded. The divine is enlarging your capacity, preparing you to hold greater love, greater vision, greater responsibility. The pain you feel now is the stretching of new space being made within you. In every uncomfortable place lies a quiet invitation to stop fighting the process and start flowing with it. To see that what seems like loss may, in time, reveal itself as liberation. To trust that even in the dark, you are being guided by a wisdom far greater than your fear. And when that truth finally sinks in, when you stop running from the discomfort and start learning from it, you'll realize something profound. The very pressure that once scared you was the proof that you were growing. There's a quiet art to listening beneath the noise of life. Most people hear, but very few discern. We rush, we plan, we strive, all while missing the soft murmur beneath the chaos, the whisper that says, this way. You see, divine opportunities rarely arrive with flashing lights or loud announcements. They tend to slip in through the cracks, disguised as ordinary moments, as coincidences, as quiet nudges in the heart. To see them, you must learn to be still enough to feel what others overlook. We often expect revelation to come in thunder, but it usually comes in a whisper. God's strategy, if we can call it that, isn't loud or linear. It's layered. It hides its treasures in plain sight. The door to destiny may look like disappointment. The path to greatness may come dressed as obscurity. Discernment is not about predicting the future. It's about perceiving meaning in the present. It's the ability to see God's fingerprints on what seems random. Think of Elijah in the cave. The wind came, the earthquake shook, the fire burned, but God wasn't in any of those. Then came a still, small voice. That's how the divine speaks. Subtle, intimate, requiring attention. And yet, how often do we drown that voice with our anxiety, our ambition, our need to control outcomes? We pray for direction, then interrupt the answer with our impatience. We ask for signs, but ignore the ones that come because they don't look the way we expected. Sometimes discernment isn't about hearing more. It's about silencing what doesn't matter. When your mind is cluttered with fear and comparison, you lose the signal of intuition. But when you quiet the noise, even for a moment, the path becomes clear, not because it changes, but because you do. Clarity doesn't arrive from outside, it rises from within. When the storm inside you finally settles, there's a rhythm to divine timing. You can't rush it, and you can't reason your way through it. The universe moves with precision, and discernment allows you to move in harmony with it. Have you noticed how some people seem to be in the right place at the right time, while others constantly miss the moment? It's not luck, it's sensitivity. It's the ability to sense when a door is about to open and when it's time to wait. It's knowing when to speak and when silence speaks louder. And here's the paradox: the more spiritually aware you become, the less desperate you feel to make things happen, because you realize that what is truly meant for you never needs to be forced. Discernment frees you from striving. It teaches you to move with life instead of against it, to trust that every delay has direction and every opportunity that slips away was never yours to begin with. You can see this in simple, everyday things. Perhaps you've been walking through life chasing outcomes, and then suddenly a conversation, a chance encounter, A subtle invitation shifts everything. It wasn't random. It was aligned. The door had been there all along. You just couldn't see it until your eyes adjusted to the light of awareness. This is why discernment requires presence. You cannot perceive divine doors if your attention is trapped in yesterday's regrets or tomorrow's anxieties. The doorway to destiny only opens in the now. Right here, in this moment, life is whispering to you, but are you listening? The great challenge of discernment is learning to trust subtlety in a world obsessed with spectacle. To walk by faith, not sight, means to sense the unseen currents moving beneath the surface. When you live this way, coincidences turn into confirmations. Interruptions reveal themselves as invitations. You stop asking for signs because everything becomes one. Life, in its divine intelligence, is constantly positioning you. But the key is not simply being placed. It's being aware of the placement. Discernment is the bridge between divine strategy and human response. It's what allows you to say, I don't know where this is leading, but I know I'm meant to follow. And when you truly begin to live from that awareness, you'll find yourself guided, not by fear, not by control, but by a quiet certainty that never leads you astray. Because every door that opens in discernment leads not just to a new place, but to a new level of seeing. When you learn to listen deeply, even silence will start speaking to you. It's strange, isn't it, how quickly we assume that a closed door means failure. We meet resistance, and immediately our minds cry out, something's wrong. We've been trained to equate ease with blessing and struggle with rejection. But life, in its quiet wisdom, doesn't always open the path we expect. It redirects us to the one we need. A closed door is not an ending. It's an act of divine editing. It's the universe trimming away what no longer serves the unfolding of who you are becoming. Every closed door carries a hidden kindness. It protects you from entering a space that cannot hold the fullness of your destiny. It saves you from small rooms when you were made for wide horizons. But in the moment, of course, it rarely feels like protection. It feels like loss, like the thing you wanted most has slipped through your fingers. Yet, what if that's the very proof that you were never meant to grasp it? What if rejection is God's way of making sure you don't settle too soon? Think of Ruth wandering the fields of Bethlehem with no promise in sight. She wasn't chasing opportunity. She was simply faithful in a place that appeared ordinary. But faithfulness, even in the face of limitation, has a way of drawing divine favor. The very field she gleaned in became the field of her redemption. One door had closed, the familiar life in Moab, but another opened quietly and unexpectedly through her obedience. That's how divine strategy works. It redirects your path through what looks like loss, only to bring you into something larger than you imagined. We often don't recognize the blessing in disguise because we're still mourning the door that shut. But loss, too, can be a language. It tells you gently but firmly that your season has shifted. Life is not punishing you, it's promoting you. And sometimes promotion looks like displacement. The places that once held meaning lose their magic. The people who once fit so well no longer align. This is not cruelty, it's calibration. You are being adjusted to match the frequency of your next assignment. When we cling to what is closing, we resist what is opening. We pray for new beginnings, yet fight the endings that make them possible. The truth is, you cannot walk through the next door if you keep knocking on the one that's locked. At some point, faith must become forward motion. You must learn to bless the door that shut, not because it hurt, but because it healed. Notice how nature models this so beautifully. The tree does not weep for its fallen leaves. it lets them go to make room for spring. The tide does not mourn the wave that retreats, for it knows another will follow. So too in our lives, doors close not to punish, but to create rhythm, to teach us that everything that departs creates space for what's to come. And isn't it remarkable that some of the greatest redirections in your life have come from what didn't work out? You thought you'd found your path, only to find yourself pushed elsewhere. And years later, you look back with quiet gratitude for the doors that refused to open. If every opportunity you desired had said yes, you might have never reached the one that was truly yours. This is the paradox of divine movement. What looks like delay is preparation. What feels like loss is alignment. You may not understand it now, but hindsight has a way of turning confusion into clarity. One day you'll see that the door you cried over was the same one that saved you. So the next time life says no, pause before you protest. Look deeper. Ask not, why is this happening to me? But what is this protecting me from? There's a wisdom in the walls we hit, a mercy in the moments that don't go as planned. For every door that closes, another quietly begins to unlock, often in a place you never thought to look. Patience then becomes your greatest act of faith, to wait without bitterness, to walk forward without proof, to trust that the divine architect never wastes space, never misplaces steps, and never leaves you stranded in the hallway between what was and what will be. Because even when you can't see it, the next door is already being prepared. And when it opens, you'll understand why the last one had to close. Rejection is never the end. It's simply redirection in disguise. Every blessing that finds you is connected to someone else's obedience. Life is not lived in isolation. It is a web of divine intersections. Every person who walks into your story carries a piece of the answer you've been praying for. Though most of the time, you don't recognize it at first. You think it's random, accidental, a mere crossing of paths. But nothing in divine design is accidental. People are placed in your life the same way God positions stars in the sky, with purpose, precision, and timing. Look back for a moment. The job that opened, the opportunity that arrived, the dream that came alive, didn't it somehow flow through another person? A mentor, a friend, even a stranger who said something at just the right moment. Every connection, every conversation, every meeting carries spiritual weight. The divine often moves through human vessels. Blessings rarely fall out of heaven. They usually walk in wearing ordinary faces. We like to think we can do it all alone. We build walls of independence and call them strength. But isolation is a subtle form of pride. It says, I can be the source. The truth is, the flow of life doesn't move through self-sufficiency. It moves through connection. The current of grace passes from heart to heart, hand to hand, to receive. You must be open not just to God, but to the people God sends. And the funny thing is, they often don't look the way you expect. Some of your greatest blessings will come wrapped in humility, inconvenience, or even irritation. The ones who stretch you the most often carry what you most need. Think of David. Before he became king, he met Jonathan. Jonathan, the son of Saul, had every reason to be jealous, yet he became the bridge that connected David to his destiny. Without Jonathan, David might never have reached the throne. Or think of the boy with the loaves and fishes. His small offering became the miracle in the hands of Christ because he was willing to give what he had. Relationships are the conduits of miracles. The divine multiplies what we share. But connection also requires discernment. Not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay. Some are assignments, not attachments. Some are lessons, not lifelines. To walk wisely, you must sense who is adding to your growth and who is anchoring you in old seasons. The company you keep determines the direction you move. Every relationship either feeds your faith or fuels your fear. Learn to honor all, but hold close only those who help you rise. Sometimes the divine will even remove people, not because they were bad, but because their role in your story is complete. When doors close, when friendships drift, when circles shift, it's not rejection, it's rotation. The cast changes as the story unfolds. You cannot cling to every connection and still walk freely into your next season. To be positioned for new blessings, you must release old ones gracefully. And then there's the sacred responsibility of being someone else's bridge. It's not only about who God sends to you, it's about who He sends through you. Every time you encourage someone, give wisdom, open a door, or simply show kindness, you become the vessel through which divine favor flows. In that moment, you are part of the sacred network that keeps grace alive in the world. You are both receiver and giver, student and teacher, blessed and blessing. When you begin to see people this way, life changes. You stop measuring encounters by surface value and start recognizing divine appointments. You realize that the stranger beside you may be the messenger for your next miracle, or perhaps you are theirs. Life stops being a series of transactions and becomes a tapestry of meaning, each thread intertwined by unseen hands. The divine strategy is relational. It weaves lives together to create openings no one could access alone. So stay open, stay humble. Don't underestimate a conversation, a smile, a helping hand. The miracle might not fall from the sky. It might sit next to you, waiting for recognition. Because the doors you're praying for won't just open by power. They'll open through people. Obedience is one of those words that makes people uncomfortable. It sounds heavy, almost restrictive, as though to obey means to surrender your freedom. But what if obedience isn't about confinement at all? What if it's about alignment and attunement between your will and the greater flow of life? To obey in the spiritual sense is not to submit to a tyrant. It's to harmonize with the rhythm of creation itself. It's to move in step with the current that already knows where it's going. You see, many of us are praying for blessings while resisting the direction that leads to them. We ask for open doors, but we keep standing in the hallway of hesitation. We want divine favor without divine instruction. Yet every act of obedience is a key that turns the lock of unseen opportunities. The doors don't open because we knock harder. They open because we finally align with the hand that holds the key. Think of Abraham. He was told to leave everything familiar, his home, his land, his family, and step into a future that had no coordinates, no guarantee, just a promise. The blessing wasn't in the destination, it was in the direction. His obedience became the bridge between what was and what would be. When he moved, heaven moved with him. That's how divine flow works. It meets you in motion. You can't steer a parked car, and the Spirit can't direct a stationary life. Movement activates miracles. We often imagine that obedience is about loss, what we must give up, what we must let go. But true obedience reveals gain. Every time you say yes to divine prompting, you make space for a higher order of life to operate through you. You stop trying to manufacture outcomes and start participating in a design that's already perfect. You begin to understand that what you call sacrifice is really an exchange your control for divine coordination. And yet, obedience rarely feels glorious in the moment. It often looks like doing something that makes no logical sense. Building an ark when there's no rain. Stepping onto water that shouldn't hold you. Feeding a multitude with only a few loaves. The logic of heaven doesn't operate on the certainty of sight. It operates on the trust of spirit. To obey when you don't understand is to declare that your faith outweighs your fear. That's when the supernatural begins to intervene in the natural. The greatest blessings aren't always behind the grand gestures. They're often hidden in the small acts of quiet faithfulness. The phone call you feel prompted to make. The opportunity you take even when you're unsure. The decision to stay when leaving feels easier. These moments don't make headlines, but they make history in your soul. Each one builds the inner structure strong enough to sustain the outer blessing. Because blessing without structure collapses. Expansion without alignment breaks. Divine favor is weighty. It requires a foundation that can hold it. That's why obedience comes first. It builds the integrity necessary to handle increase. You can't receive what you're not ready to carry. So God prepares you not by giving more, but by growing you. Every yes in a season of uncertainty enlarges your capacity for what's next. And when that alignment finally settles in, something extraordinary happens. Effort gives way to flow. You no longer chase outcomes. Outcomes begin to find you. You stop forcing and start allowing. What once required striving now unfolds naturally because your life has become a vessel for divine timing. You begin to understand that obedience was never about control. It was about connection. So when the next prompting comes and it feels risky or uncomfortable, remember this: every great door opens inward. You don't push it, you yield to it. Trust the nudge. Follow the whisper. Say yes even when you don't see the full picture. Because obedience has never been about understanding first. It's about moving first. Understanding always follows movement. The flow of life favors the willing, not the waiting. Every time you align with divine instruction, you become the very key that opens your own doors.